Hey, what is it going on, everybody? I'm here with Roberto from Ace Construction. I'm really excited to have y'all out here. We got connected through a mutual friend, Ethan Van de High of Infinity Exteriors. We got a mutual friend out there, and he has been. Oh, are we popping in, Eric? Oh, shoot.
I think he is.
That's good.
I
That's good.
think
Cool.
he's making a grand entrance.
There we go. Well, super excited to have these guys on today. This is going to be a little bit less of a structured episode, and we just kind of want to chat with Roberto and Eric about what they've been able to do with Ace Construction, and it's been really cool watching them grow. I mean, Ethan has been talking about them for a couple months now, and I'm finally getting able to actually meet them. So super excited. But for the people who don't know who you guys are, don't know what you guys are all about, can you give us kind of a brief description of who is Roberto? What do you guys do? And what's the whole whole story behind Ace Construction?
Absolutely. Thank you, George, for having us on. And like I said, shout out to Ethan for connecting us. My brother, I think he's connecting now. But yeah, basically, we're a roofing and construction company. We're based out of Sugar Land, Texas. We service Rosenberg, Richmond, other areas, and amongst the greater Houston areas. And yeah, this just started really just as a family business. My brother and I, Eric, we started off as subs, as Drake says, started from the bottom, just being subs and kind of knowing how to work with remodeling, roofing, a lot of different industries. And then after doing it for a while, we just figured that it'd be best that we branch out on our own and try to launch our own thing. So that's what we've been doing ever since. It's been a couple years now.
Heck yeah, heck yeah. When did you guys start out as subs?
Eric.
Initially, hey, so nice to meet you, George. Sorry I was running a little late. So
No, you're all good.
initially we started about 7 years ago. We figured we always had like the bigger, we had a picture of where we wanted to be and who we wanted to be. However, we wanted to start, from the ground and knowing exactly what it takes to actually do the job, from the person who's picking up debris all the way to the person who's selling the job, logistics and everything else.
Heck yeah, heck yeah. And how old were you guys when you started subbing?
That's a good question.
Mm,
Like
Young. Yeah.
24? I was 24. I'm
Yeah.
31 now, so
Nice.
ballpark 24. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Started. Yeah. Young for sure.
That's awesome. No, that's awesome. That's cool. And so when did Ace, what year did Ace come about? When did you guys make that transition from subbing to going out on your own?
About 2.5 years ago.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you guys are out in Sugarland, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Heck yeah. How's the competition out there? I hear good and I hear bad about Texas.
Yeah. It's the Wild West, It is a free for all, as opposed to a lot of states do require licenses, as you know, Texas doesn't.
Yeah.
So the barrier entry is very low. So, a lot of people just, shoot real low prices and everything. But, it's just like anywhere else. I think it's very prevalent here down south specifically, where you have that issue where, the influx of cheap labor and, people just underbidding. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's kind of what it's all about. It's like that marketing and creating that brand positioning to be like, hey, I am spending 15, 20, 30, $40,000 on my home project. I better check these guys have insurance, make sure they're highly rated on Google and everything if I'm going to have them in my home.
Right.
So I think in a sense it's good and bad because either way it weeds out bad clients for us, you know what I mean?
Right.
Not everybody's meant to align with us, and that's perfectly fine. So I feel like that's kind of what's separating us from the pack. That we did start it as subs and everything else, so we know exactly how everything's goes from the ground up. But yeah, it's tough. But like I said, with honing in the marketing and the brand positioning and everything else, I think it plays in really well.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit. I want to ask more about your guys' marketing and kind of what strategies you guys have used there. I know Ethan's helping you guys out with that, but when you first came out and started Ace and you were marketing for the first time, what was kind of the strategy there? Were you guys just going out knocking doors? Was it putting up signs? Were you running ads at that point?
Yeah, yeah, that's how it was. It's kind of like a we had a mixed campaign, obviously door hangers, doing that, reaching out to friends, family, and then also running Facebook ads. We initially started with some Facebook ads and stuff. I mean, marketing has been a up and down. It's been pretty tough, especially
Yeah.
past couple months and stuff. Trying out different agencies, not delivering our results, you
Yep.
trying to focus on expanding the business and letting someone else do their work. But I feel like as business owners, as we kind of have to audit everyone, whether it's your marketing team or anything, to make sure you're getting the deliverables that you pay for.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
So what are you guys doing now? What's kind of the strategy now that you guys have grown?
I'll say it's a mix of everything. So a lot of referrals, definitely have referrals. We're still doing um our marketing outreach is still we still do some hangers, some door hangers. We're considering um the mail flyers. We haven't looked into that as well, but we are running Google PPC, Google LSA. So it's just a mixed channel of leads, now as we just kind of just keep going on with the times and growing. Feel we just kind of have different avenues to really try to get as many leads as possible.
100%. 100%. And obviously you guys partner in this business. Does one of you have like a certain skill set? Like is one of you better at sales and the other one is better at the tech stuff? Or is like, do you guys have
For
separate
sure.
skill sets?
Yeah,
What are those?
definitely. So I handle all the operations. I handle all the technical side of it. I do that, and he handles more of like the marketing side of it and the outreach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Has it always been that way?
I
Yeah,
think so,
honestly.
just because I started a little bit earlier than him, so I have a
Okay.
little bit more like knowledge in like all the roof systems and applications and all of you know the warranties and all that. So I
Yeah.
Right.
think it was just the way that I think I started like 2 years before him, so that kind of gave me a little bit of more experience.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%.
That's the issue, especially with working in families that you see across not only just in service-based businesses, but business in general, just families, they fight a lot and they don't know how to differentiate and compartmentalize the personal and the business. And also there's no clear defined roles. If you don't have clear defined roles, you're constantly gonna be butting heads, be like, I thought you took care of that. I thought you took care of that. So I feel like we just naturally fall into whether it's like being an introvert extrovert and just our strengths and weaknesses, we just kind of complement each other, and it's like, hey, okay, I have an interest in this and marketing and finding out analytics, keyword research, all this and that to kind of propel us marketing outreach, community outreach. And he's very like, he can tell you all the details, specifics, like everything about any kind of roof system, which I can to a degree, but not to the level that he has because he has more on-field experience. So I feel like we complement each other well in that aspect.
Yeah, 100%. And I hear that all the time from a lot of family-owned businesses that are like
Yeah,
it's so hard because it's really hard to leave work at work and not take that home and bring that into other aspects of your life. How have you guys been? I mean, obviously you're doing pretty good at keeping it at least not maybe not separate, but at least not allowing some of those work troubles to spill into the personal. How do you guys manage that? Like as brothers, do you just talk it out? Like what's the strategy, I guess, in making sure that there's no big blowups like we see all the time in family businesses?
yeah,
Definitely, definitely, it's talking. Constantly talking. Like we have multiple conversations per day. There's certain times that we just have to say, hey, you know what? Let's live your life. Like it's 8 p.m. at night. Go attend your family, and then let's go ahead and start this conversation again tomorrow 8 a.m. So sometimes we do
mhm,
have to roll it over to the next day. Sometimes we can solve the issue at the same day, but it just really depends. We just have to hold ourselves a little bit more accountable and just try to remember that there has to be at least some line that we have to put in front of us to say, hey, we also have to be, humans and attend our families, make sure that aside of them being good financially, we have to also be there for certain events and stuff like that. So,
yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like we're pretty autonomous in our divisions, as far as he handles operations, logistics, and all that. We're pretty autonomous in that regard that we do our own thing. But if it's time to make a big decision that is going to impact the business in a big way, or we have a project, or we need something that we're working on that that's on a time crunch, then we do strategize, come together, and make that decision together. But yeah, I feel like that's how that just kind of like that speed to lead is what converts is the same thing here.
Yeah.
You we're a small business, so we're able to be more nimble and operate much quicker. So the faster you make these decisions, as you know, like Elon Musk, he's just firing people left and right, and he wants stuff done ASAP. I feel like we don't take it to that extreme, but we are autonomous and we move quick.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%. And that's what I love most about small businesses that can really pivot quickly based on different market changes, different, weather, things like that.
Right.
When you guys first got up and running, what was one of the biggest constraints that was slowing you guys down from being able to do that? Was it leads? Was it hiring people? Was it the systems? What would you say?
I would say, man, it's probably a bit of everything, honestly. A little bit of everything. I mean, we had, like I said, a pretty good general knowledge of everything else, but I feel like just the structuring, putting our business hat on and everything else.
Right.
Um, we're really good with knowing our numbers and everything, but I feel like it's kind of putting everything together, like big picture wise, from the digital marketing, okay, this is our spend, what's our return on ad spend, what's our execution, what is our 3 6 month plan. So I feel like just kind of honing in on strategy and deliverables.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. And what about you? Do you think, Eric, do you think there was any operational challenges you guys faced early on, or any bottlenecks around there?
Mhm. Yeah, it was really more of like trying to, from the beginning, we're trying to build that retail market just
Mm,
because Houston is one of those markets where we don't get many big storms that, will give you work for the whole year. So in order for you to survive, you have to learn and know how to sell retail,
yeah.
right? Because if you don't know that business model, Houston will, like Rob mentioned at the beginning, companies can start, you can be a roofing company within a week, right? Or a couple days. However, will you last your first year without any storms is very, very difficult. If you don't have systems and you don't actually know the retail model, you can't survive. So I think that for us was like when we started, initially it was a mix of both. It was a big, relationships with certain clients that it starts with them just getting, consistent maintenance plans throughout the year. And then that one storm does get here, and then now they're ready to move forward with a full replacement. And then you just keep going from there. You have to keep building and continue that retail model. And whenever you do get some insurance work, that's just kind of like a plus. But I
Yeah.
think that was the biggest thing for us is just learning the market we're in and knowing that it's not 100% insurance market.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'd like to add to that because it's kind of like exactly what he mentioned. Texas is so big, but Houston specifically, where we're at, even you have millions of people here, the weather's just so different. So you don't have many hail events or any storm events, so insurance can kind of go on that. So once that's done, it's like, do you have the brand positioning and the digital marketing to bring the inbound leads? Because then how are you gonna strategize that 3 to 6 month plan, 12 month. So you can if you kind of shift to retail and get that system going, then your KPIs and everything, you're able to revenue forecast better. So that's kind of honestly what's been working for us and what we learn, along the way
Yeah.
for sure.
No, 100%, 100%. And that's so interesting to hear how you guys are so heavily dependent on retail in Houston. Cause like out here in Colorado, it's a huge storm market, right? Cause we get
Yeah,
hail all the
Yeah.
time. We get
crazy.
crazy storms. And so we have storm chasers that do insanely well just chasing storms and doing no retail, doing no
Right.
commercial. Like that's all they do. Obviously, there's pros and cons to doing that too. And they definitely feel some of those
Absolutely.
cons when we have a year like this year where we haven't had a ton of storms, right? But one of my favorite roofing companies here, Red Rock, and Steve, I had him on the podcast. He was one of the first guests. They're heavy into retail, especially here in a storm market. And
Oh
he says
wow.
the same thing. It's like it's really hard to crack into it, especially in a storm market where a lot of people can kind of underbid you if they're are doing that storm chasing. But if you build up the right systems and you build up the brand of the company to focus mostly on that retail, like it's a big, huge gold nugget that you can tap into once you crack it. So it's
Definitely.
so interesting to hear the difference between
Absolutely. That
that in
yeah.
Houston and that here.
That's what it is. A lot of people shop at Whole Foods for a reason. They can go to
Yeah.
Walmart, they can go to the whatever, but they
Yeah.
want the organic, cage free, they want all this. So people are willing to pay for it. And, sometimes if you don't have your digital and brand positioning like set correctly, you might think there's like it's kind of like a scarcity mindset. You don't think those clients are out there. They
Yeah,
actually are. You
100%.
just need to be found, and
Yeah.
they're plentiful. On average, 4 to 5% of all roofs here, specifically in Houston, are getting replacements. So the
Wow.
market's there. The market's there for sure. It's just really about the brand positioning and just doing that outreach. Because people will pay that premium. Not saying that we're an expensive company. I won't say we're the most expensive company. I think we're like medium tier. We're healthily priced. But yeah, definitely. I think
Yeah.
that branding is important.
Yeah. Was that kind of one of the biggest pieces that allowed you guys to crack the retail nut, is setting up those digital channels and getting that brand positioning started, or was it mostly the outreach?
Mhm. What do you say,
Seems like it
Eric?
was a mix of both.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
honestly.
you do have you need to do you need to put in the legwork, definitely, and you also need to start, whichever route you want to take, if it's Facebook or Google or just other sources. But you still have to kind of try to level that, and to where in the level of like the company still being healthy, right? Because you run into the issue where a lot of people think that, oh, I can dump thousands of dollars into this platform and it'll get me work. And at the end of the 3 month period, your return of investment is not there. And the company's not being healthy because you're not producing. So you also have to kind of keep that balance and know what works for you. But it kind of at the beginning stages is always the hardest because you have to kind of figure out what works, and you won't know until you actually try it. So of course that means if a couple $1,000s go down the drain, it's not, just call it testing or, trial runs, but you do have to spend some money to definitely play in this game. So that
Yeah.
definitely
For sure.
is a big
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. And when you guys do get customers that come to you that might have some insurance work, or maybe they are a little bit more price sensitive, how do you deal with those customers? Like, do you guys have financing plans that are available? Do you offer different options for customers like that, or do you guys mostly just focus on some of those higher end homes that can't afford those bigger retail jobs?
Yeah. I mean, it's both. Like I said, we're nimble. We're nimble. So we can go to designer roofs. So it actually makes us stand out from a lot of companies. Like I said, we have that installer experience, but not only just in residential. We actually have multifamily, commercial jobs, so TPO, everything like that. We've worked in military bases. We have
Oh
like
wow.
so we worked in different places, different states. So we're familiar with a lot of different codes, installation, stuff like that. So it doesn't really matter. We can sell somebody that's looking to finance, that's a bit on a budget, or someone that wants a premium roof. They want a metal, standing seam metal or tile, Ludovici, whatever it may be. Like that's I feel like that's what sets us apart, makes it unique. So whether we offer financing or premium, whichever one, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Do you guys do a lot of commercial or multifamily work?
Yeah, so as far as multifamily, we're a lot of maintenance plans for, it's just kind of like nurturing that lead,
Yeah.
whenever they do need us or any storms or when there's time to sell, stuff like that, then we're right in position to do that.
Right.
And yeah,
Right. A lot of those bigger projects are all about relationship building, right? Because likely
absolutely.
they're not going to
Yeah.
need you right away, but
Right.
eventually down the road they will. And if they need you and you do a good job, they got friends who probably going to need you too. And so, how do you guys manage that? What is your method of relationship building and kind of staying top of mind for when something like that does come about?
Definitely, I would say the first thing, kind of to touch on what you mentioned, how a lot of people think that you're just going to go up to a multifamily property and say, "Hey, you guys need a roof," and they come in with the residential mindset, thinking that, "Oh, okay, I'm just going to submit a bid by tomorrow or today, and I'll get a answer sometime this week." And a lot of contractors, what they do, we've noticed in our area at least, they don't nurture those leads, right? They don't nurture their leads. They don't care about the repair that's only going to cost a few $100s. Sometimes they might actually just have one vent that costs a couple $100s to repair, and that's it. But people are like, "Oh, that's not worth my time," right? But it's not about today; it's about tomorrow. So that definitely is one of those things where when these customers can see that you care about them, and you're actually, if it's a small problem or a big issue, you still offer them the same service and the great same great experience once they're dealing with you.
Yeah.
So I feel
Yeah.
like
Absolutely. I feel like
that's a big
that's
thing.
yeah, it's definitely a huge thing. We as far as like nurturing, we make sure we're on that. Relationship building is super important when you're dealing with multifamily and commercial. It's a different game. Like I
Yeah.
said, that's why I feel like we're very nimble. So, but that definitely comes into play. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. When you guys started out, and now correct me if I'm wrong here, but when you guys started out, I assume that you guys were doing a lot of kind of everything, wearing a lot of hats. I mean, y'all were out there probably on the jobs as well. You're out there selling them, you're out there doing the marketing, you're out there figuring out all the inventory and logistics and all that. Have you guys, how different is it now that you guys have kind of scaled up a little bit? You got some people in place. Is it like, what do you spend most of your time on now? Versus what you spent your time on back then.
Henry, definitely the project manager. That's kind of helped us for sure. Our project manager we got, he's on site, I'm very like kind of tech savvy. I'm into everything that's digital marketing, drones, anything like that. So we definitely incorporate a lot of that. And he basically started from ground zero. Started from ground zero. So over the past year and a half, we've been just teaching him everything we know. And it's still a learning curve for sure, but most of the standard stuff and how we operate, he's kind of got it dialed in, and that's what we prefer. And that's what I would say. Anybody who's like a small company, I'll say if you had a person who either kind of knows the industry, but they're not that good at their job or they don't really care, or you have a fresh guy, I'd rather get the fresh guy, because you can really dial in the systems and teach him the fundamentals to so he can move forward correctly. But I feel like definitely having a project manager on site allows us to kind of do more lead nurturing, outreach, do the sales calls, do everything like that, and ultimately just generate more revenue for the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And when I completely agree with your sentiment about the hiring, right? It's way better to have someone who doesn't know anything about your industry but has those unteachable skills, right? They're driven,
Right.
they care about doing a good
Absolutely.
job, they like learning, and they want to improve, right? Those are things you can't really teach somebody. Like you just kind of have that or you don't. So I totally agree. We brought someone on recently that is the same thing. He didn't know a ton about our industry, but he had some really, really good technical knowledge and was super, super focused. Like he just was really focused, wanted to work, wanted to do a good job, and wanted to keep improving the company. And as soon as we brought him on, it was like night and day, right? It was like, wow, I can teach you all the things about the ins and outs of this specific tech thing, or like how you interact with these types of customers. I can teach all of that. But the fact that you have that initiative already is like the biggest plus. And so I think that that's
Absolutely.
one of my favorite things to find in new employees is that initiative, because if you can have that initiative, you can teach them anything.
I agree.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. For you guys, what do you, I hear this all the time from not only roofing companies, but just general home service companies as well. One of the hardest things about the business is people, right? Hiring good people, keeping them around, making sure that you have solid crews that you can rely on, solid salespeople, solid project managers, etc. What do you guys think is harder? Do you think finding those good people is harder, or do you think holding them, like keeping them around, is harder?
I feel like for us, it's not really an issue, and that's kind of
Okay,
like a
okay,
unique
okay.
thing. It's really not. We've been with our crew, our in-house crew, for years. They
That's
actually
awesome.
started with my brother started first, but they just been loyal to him, and it all goes back to our roots. Our parents always we started working when we were young, so when you're out there in the heat, and just for reference, here in Houston in the summers, it gets to 105,
Uh,
110 degrees. With 80% humidity. So when you're out there, you're sweating. If a client comes out and gives you a Gatorade, a bottle of water, anything, you're super grateful. And now when you're subbing, and then the salesman comes up there, the sales guy that you're subbing for, they just go to the homeowner, get the check, and just leave. All right, hey guys, boom. Not even a pack of soda, ice for the cooler or something like that, right? So being in that position, it kind of basically what I'm getting at is the small things evolve into the big things. So
Mm,
our guys, we get them ice, we get them drinks, get them breakfast, everything like that, right? So you treat the people right, you pay them well, pay them a premium, and they'll be loyal to you. You know, you treat them right. I was like, just treat them how you want to be treated. On the site, you know, we wish somebody would be there. Hey guys, here's a free lunch. Here's a pack of Gatorade, stuff like that. So and then, you know, obviously providing them with fresh gear. Hey, you don't have any knee pads, shoes. What do you need? You need a pitch hopper to make sure on those steep roofs you're making those repairs very comfortably. So I feel like analyzing every single little detail that we want, you know, we want it back then, and just incorporating that now builds that loyalty, that trust, and then yeah, just having SOPs, you know, standing operating procedures, making sure they already know everything, you know. Having the project manager there is kind of like a plus, but we don't need him on site. He can do his own thing, or he can just take off, and we can have multiple builds going on, and everything's gonna be running smoothly. No calls and hey, this, what about this? What about that? So I feel like we're pretty dialed in on that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And what other, obviously that's a huge benefit of you guys
Hmm.
kind of seeing the the job from all perspectives, right? You guys have been out there
Hmm.
installing, you guys have been out there selling, now you're out here operating the company, right? And obviously being able to know what you would have wanted as an installer, it helps your
Absolutely.
current installers have a more productive work environment. What other things have you guys learned from your hands-on experience that have translated over into your employees now, where you're able to be like, hey, I wanted this when I was y'all, so now we're going to provide that for you guys?
Eric.
I want to say, I don't know if this is well, really just kind of knowing like even the materials, really. So
Mm.
like sometimes, believe it or not, a lot of contractors they just care about what's the cheapest and what's. There's a lot of times where you run into a home that's more on the steeper side or a steep roof, just in general, and people still try to use cheaper materials on these jobs, and the people that are suffering are the ones installing your roofs for you because one, it's kind of like a less it's not a safe environment. One, because they have the right products for these steep roofs, right? But of course, it's you're talking of a 40-50 dollar per item upgrade, and we take that stuff into consideration to where like I know that I can say, okay, this house is steep. Now I know that my guys are going to be safe because first of all, they're tied off. Two, they have the proper materials up there. So I feel like the material side, we've actually like we take that into consideration a lot. Like we know that hey, it is more expensive, which adds to the total job of the cost. But we know that one, the customer is getting a better product, and two, the guys are safer up there. So safety is a big thing because a lot of the times you'll be surprised. Like sometimes guys, for instance, like a roll of synthetic, they'll go with the economy brand, but it's not necessarily the it doesn't have the best the grip, the best grip. So,
Hmm.
sometimes it's better to pay extra $40 a roll, but you're getting a premium product, which the guys feel safer. So just kind of just, making sure that whatever they communicate back to us, we actually pay attention and try to figure out what can we do to give the customer a good product and keep our guys safe and happy because at the end of the day, your crew is what runs your company, right? So if these guys they take pride in their work, they're actually like their work environment, they're always going to give you their best, and that's what we look for. Make sure that we honestly don't even get our warranty callbacks are
Yeah,
very low,
callbacks. Oh, we don't. Yeah.
super low for the same thing that so and for instance, me and Rob sometimes are doing an inspection, and I'm just kind of going over a small detail sometimes, and I'm just like, hey, little things like if you would take 1 to 2 3 minutes, right, max, to install a little piece of ice and water on a penetration that would just help you not have to come back just for a second layer of protection. It's totally worth it. And a lot of the times guys don't get they feel like they don't get compensated well enough to where they want to take the time, the extra 3 minutes, to actually do that detail correctly, right?
Right.
Just for that what if. We're not saying it could or could not leak, but I'd rather take those 3 minutes and install that ice and water on there and make sure that we don't get a call back. So I feel like those little stuff
Hmm.
definitely, that can definitely hurt you in the long run if you don't pay attention to these things.
Right. Right. That makes sense. And
Yeah.
obviously, giving your employees the right type of environment and the right type of pay to want to focus on those things and want to focus on taking that extra
Absolutely.
little bit of time is super crucial. And obviously, you guys have done extremely well at doing that. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
George, didn't you used to do gutters, right? Or sell
yeah.
gutters?
Yep. So
How
I
was how
used to
was that?
do
How'd you come about that?
yeah, so I a family friend of ours owns probably the largest gutter company in the northern Colorado area, and I was in school for business, and so I had some sort of business knowledge and understood sales, and so he was like, "Hey, we need salespeople. We just got a ton of storms coming up this year. Like, we need help." And so I just got into it and started selling seamless gutter, and it was crazy because I didn't know anything about anything. Like I knew how to
You just
talk
need
to
the
people.
numbers, you think?
Yeah, seriously. I was like, I didn't know anything. I was like, I know how to talk to people and I know like a little bit about sales, but like gutters, I don't know anything. I didn't even know seamless gutter companies were like a thing. Like I didn't even know people sold that as a whole company. I was like, that's crazy. And so when I started learning about it, I was like, wow, this is actually really fun. I was like, this is so much fun. And I love learning about the different products and I love learning about all the different materials and how copper is like the coolest thing. So now anytime I walk by a copper job, I'm like, damn. I'm like,
Yeah,
damn. I'm walking
absolutely.
by, I'm looking at the shine and all that. So no, it
Especially when
was
they seal them, right? Too.
yeah. Actually, at my university in Boulder, Colorado, they only do copper. Like for the whole campus, like every
Wow.
building on the whole campus is only copper, unless it's like a internal, like it feeds into the building and doesn't go outside the like out the wall and stuff. But any of the exterior gutters are all copper, and I was like, that's actually insane. I want to know how much they spend on copper gutters because I would want to be the
Yeah.
contractor doing that job for
No,
sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Kind of goes
interesting.
back to the same thing with roofing. Once you start roofs, like in the roofing space, you kind of tend to always everywhere you're driving, you're constantly just looking at everyone's roof. So
Yeah.
I totally get
You're
that
like, oh,
part
they
of
made a
just
killing on
going up.
that one.
Yeah, seriously. They just built a new building. Like, they probably just finished it a couple months ago. And it's got a brand new half round copper system on it. It's like a 6-inch half round copper system. And it's got a big old fat 6-inch downpipe, downspout too.
Don't spot.
All copper. It's all welded, all sealed. It's all like, it's just perfect. And I was looking at it and people were looking at me all crazy. And I was like, you guys don't get it. I was like, you guys don't get it. This section here is like 15 grand. Like you don't even know. And I was like, wow, that's insane. But apparently they do it because of maintenance, which I didn't know. Because copper gutters
Mm,
maintenance is like way lower than it would be for a standard steel system.
absolutely.
And so I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. They're willing to fork up the
Hmm.
cash now so that they don't have to do those callbacks and be like, hey, we got to leak.
Absolutely.
Hey, we got this foundation problem now. So it all goes back to that what you were talking about materials, right? If you focus on having good
Absolutely.
materials and you can put that in front of your customer and say, give them the option, like, hey, look, if you go with this
Yeah.
more expensive option, you're probably going to have a whole hell of a lot of an easier time in 5 years from now.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely. That's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. When you guys started, what's one thing that you would do differently now? Because I'm thinking about this conversation about how when I started doing gutters and I was like, man, I can think of now knowing what I do now, I could think of a million things that I would have done differently. Even in the
Hindsight, right?
sales side. Yeah, right. Even in sales, like I would have just come like knowing everything about what I know now. I was like, man, I could have made so much more money doing this now if I would have just went back and did these few things different. So when you guys started, what are some things that if you were to start again today in the same market, what would you change? What would you do differently knowing what you do now?
I have two things I can think of. I mean, I know you heard.
Trying to
I
think. Well,
I
you
would
can
say
start.
one of my things would definitely be well, we spent a lot of money on Facebook ads. I would say definitely, I would have shifted more to our PPC strategy from the jump. Facebook is just like, just like Google and Facebook, they have all our data. So if you mention roof or you text roof leak, they start just getting all those roof ads or whatever. But I'll say it's kind of like different platforms serve different needs. I would say those are more so low to medium intent leads as opposed to Google when someone's actually searching. It's like high intent.
Yeah.
So then you have a lot of people who are price shopping, who don't care about brand position and all that. So when you show up, it's like they just want the cheapest price. So I'd say one, that's a waste of money, resources, and time, you know. And then second thing I think is kind of just really getting to know more about marketing, as opposed to like the previous one that we had, we our deliverables weren't really where they were supposed to be. at, month 3 or 4. So, we ended that relationship, but I'm glad we caught it at a good time. And I just did it just by, just doing my due diligence, finding Dennis Yu, being in these groups and say, hey, could you do a quick audit? He's like, absolutely, I'll do it. Hey, this is what I found. You're not ranking on any money keywords, stuff like that. So I would say one, just kind of knowing what channel works best for us, and two, really, getting a full picture of what marketing should be. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think one of the biggest mistakes a lot of contractors make is not knowing enough about marketing. Like, you don't have to know everything and you don't have to do everything in the business, like in the marketing side either. But as long as you know enough to keep your agency in check, like that's the most important part. And so I think that so many contractors just hand over money and say, oh, go ahead, take care of it. And they don't really understand what's actually going on behind the scenes, so that when things do start to go wrong, they can easily fall for those excuses of like, oh, it just takes time, we're optimizing, stuff like that, right? Which we've all heard a million times.
Oh
But
yeah.
at the end of the day, like, you guys are doing a really good job at owning that knowledge, right? Knowing what to do and knowing how that works, intent-based search versus non-intent based, right? Understanding
Mhm.
the fundamentals there, so you guys can actually take control of that. Because at the end of the day, the marketing is like the lifeblood, right? If you guys don't have marketing, you guys don't have leads coming in, you don't have jobs.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
I think it's so important for home service companies and roofers to own that knowledge and understand exactly how that actually feeds their business. So
Yeah.
I think it's awesome that you guys have taken that step,
It's a
especially since you
learning
guys
curve.
started.
It's a learning curve for sure. We're still
Yeah.
learning now. We're still in the process of, correcting that and getting it done right. But I feel like it's just having um that deep understanding of knowledge of being like, hey, this is really essential to how the business operates. Make sure, because like you say, a lot of owners, they just want to, that's the thing that happens, with people who come from service based, specifically this industry. Like, they're like, I need to focus on the work, on the work, on the work, right? So they're like, I'm gonna just give marketing team 5K a month and you take care of it, you make it happen. I'm not a marketing guy, you just take care of it. It's like laissez-faire, as opposed
Yep.
to someone who comes in from a different business, doesn't know crap about this. They know that that's what brings in the lead, so they have a more objective based view on it, and they're like, okay, I need to invest on this, and this, and that.
Yep.
So they're
Yep.
more hands on, I would say.
Yeah. 100%.
Another thing that I would say on in that regards is it kind of depends on if you're a retail based company or insurance, right? Once you're an
Right.
insurance based company, a lot of these guys, when it's prime season, they don't care. Money's coming in so fast, they'll just dump it. And like you said, at the end of the day, once if they have a bad campaign, they'll go back and say, oh, they don't feel it, right? Because they got so much money coming in. But in those slow months, and now you're like, okay, the money stopped, and now you have a bill that's due, that you're like, oh crap, like what is this producing for me? Like, a lot of these guys will default, or and it goes back to the same thing. A lot of guys can be insurance contractors, but they don't build a brand,
Yeah.
right? So I feel like that's where it depends on the type of business you are. There's a lot of contractors that are insurance based, and there's some that are actually trying to be a brand, and ultimately, you won't, it seems like the market is going that way. So where insurance is definitely going to it's going to go downwards, and it's going to be a retail based business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And I think that's so true. I think just with the changing economy and people's buyer, like the perception of buyers is changing, retail is going to
Absolutely.
be what takes off. Right. And we've already seen that here in Colorado, like this year,
Yeah.
especially when storms are drying up. Like, we don't got nothing this year. And
Absolutely.
probably like last year and probably this year too. And so, like, you can see that happening, right? You see the guys who haven't built the brand, who haven't spent the time to focus on their
Hmm.
marketing and to focus on their customer. Like, you can see them floundering. They're freaking out right now. But those guys who built that brand and built that reputation they're soaring right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we're about to wrap up here, but I wanted to ask you guys one last question. What piece of advice would you guys give to your guys' younger selves? If you could go back and tell your younger selves, man, whether it's business, whether it's personal, whether it's like, hey, it's just, you got this, you ain't got to worry about it. Like, just keep pushing. What type of advice would you guys give to someone else in your shoes back in the day?
Study marketing. I would say start there, study marketing, because that's the biggest thing that helps you excel your business for sure. I would say focus a little bit about learning at least the basics to where you can at least, understand how this works. And like you said, you don't always have to do it yourself. It's kind of hard to really be efficient trying to do the marketing yourself and do the sales and everything else. So, but I would say definitely get at least some basic knowledge on what marketing is and how it can help you because you need it.
Yeah, I would say just start now. Don't, hey, you feel like something's holding you back. There's never a perfect time to start something. I'll say just go for it, give it your all. And a lot of people's like, oh, I want to wait till this. I want to wait till this time, till this is right. Sometimes you just kind of have to trust your gut instinct. If you want to do it and you have the health and ability to do so, I'll say pursue it.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, if anyone wants to reach out to you guys and maybe ask for advice or just learn more about what you guys are all about, where can they find you guys?
aceconstructionservices.net. You can find us on Instagram as well at Ace Construction HTX. We have a YouTube channel too. We're gonna try to start doing the podcast too.
There you go.
We're
There you
gonna try
go.
to do that. So hopefully we can have you on there, or one of ours as well. I mean, we
Heck
might
yeah.
repurpose this one. So
Heck
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, you can find us there.
That's awesome, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on today. Again, thank you so much for your time, and we will talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
Hey,